call the meeting to order. So we have Shauna, Keith, David, Renee. We don't have Paul Jonkas, but he's the only other committee member absent. So I'll take notes today while we're on the call. This was the agenda that was posted. So it was with David put together. So David,
yes,
can add or subtract, but I think, is there anything we want to? I know you wanted to talk about the about recording clerk for the meetings, but was there anything else anybody wanted to talk about? All right, so let's just start with, I'm going to take notes like live while we're talking. So the first item was the town meeting articles. So you've got to establish the municipal light plant and to seek approval from the legislature authorizing the light plant. So can you, David, can you just explain what those two things are?
well, I'm just looking basically at the model from Fairhaven. We have from their town meeting last spring, the two articles. The first one set up the was, the second vote on setting up the municipal light plant. We did the first one back in the last town meeting, and so we're now talking about setting it up officially and starting the process. And then the second article, which is much more lengthy, is focused on giving the municipal light plant financial authority to borrow and spend.
So,
Pardon me?
David or Keith, have you guys talked with KP Law? I know that Jim was going to do that and he needed some input.
Yeah, I tried to, and I had sent these articles. I had just made them, reference Westport. So, and I sent them to the town administrator, so that way we could get those to KP Law, so they could look at that and also help do the due diligence. We had a couple of questions regarding the due diligence of, setting all this up. So I sent that off to him. I don't know if they were sent to KP Law or not. I haven't heard back either way. But we are trying to contact them to look at that.
And you were, if I remember correctly, you were also going to discuss with them the municipal light ban approach as opposed to an enterprise fund approach. Is that still correct?
I believe that was, I think that was, there was an email.
Yeah.
That referenced, it was like 3 or 4 items to do that. So I sent that off as well, trying to get those questions answered.
I know that for the 12 municipalities we're currently working with in Massachusetts, you guys are of course one of them. Well, actually there are 13 now. A handful, most of them are going down the path of municipal light plant, because that's what their attorneys have recommended. But there are some. Chelsea is one of those. I think New Bedford is another, and a couple of others who, specifically in the advice of KP Law and some attorneys there, have decided to go more down the enterprise fund route. It just gives a little bit more flexibility and not as many hoops to jump through. So I think that's worthwhile. If you're going to talk to them, I think it's worthwhile having that conversation with them. And then determining what's best for Westport.
Who can we assign to make sure that we're following up with? I mean, it's possible the town administrator already did have that initial conversation. So who can take that on, like just coordinating that we make sure we find out what KP Law is thinking.
I mean, I can certainly work with the town administrator and KP Law, so I'll do that.
All right, so if you can work with them to get their input for our next meeting, I think we'll probably meet in about a month. Because we'll need to get those on the warrant, like probably by February. So we need to get them on the warrant. We need to start talking about it. Yeah. So I think we've talked about these two options a couple of times. Is there anything that I know we need the input from KP Law, but is there anything else we want to talk about here as a group about those two things? without having yet had the benefit of council?
I think the municipal light company, well, organization, I think there's a couple of different structures that you can have within that, right? So as far as the management, you can have a board, or you can have, an individual who oversees and operates that. So I don't know if we want to have the discussion of, what does that look like? What does that structure look like? So we can start directing, when we do speak with KP Law, we can say, this is what we're looking at.
So is that the second item, the organization and operations of the MLP? David, is that what you intended with that one?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but Shauna, are you hearing me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, I really, we've talked about the enterprise fund and doing the municipal light plant. I think the towns that are maybe going the enterprise fund direction are much bigger towns with much more sophisticated management. And I just don't see that as anything we should try to take on our own. I think we need to set up a separate entity and hire management to run it. So it may be okay to talk with them about it, but I don't want to be talked into doing the enterprise fund by the people from KP Law and lead us down another path that is not really good for the town. So I urge caution on that, and even some consideration of whether we should just not take that up and just focus on the municipal light plant.
So maybe we don't want to spend a lot of detail on that, but I think we should have an answer to why we don't want to do it, and maybe the legal input would be part of that.
Okay, but I think our management capability.
Oh,
We lost
Cut out there. Yeah, I think the municipal light and power, one of the reasons why a lot of towns like it is it provides that isolation or separation from its own entity, right? So it's not a town entity, and I think a lot of communities like that
right.
that feature.
And it can't have a separate governance, right?
Yes.
Some of the towns I know we're working with, they're talking about having the select board, choose or choose a board. And then others are actually talking about members of the select board being the board. So again, I think there's some flexibility that way. And Westport would just want to determine what would be the best, governance model for your town.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, Keith, what I think where we're kind of leaning here is we probably do want to put on the table with KP Law, just to kind of say, hey, is there some reason that we should consider an enterprise fund that we're not thinking about, but maybe not, but we don't really want to spend a lot of effort on it because it doesn't seem like it's going to be the right way.
Yep.
Did you hear my question that whether Devin has some town that he would recommend that we talk with?
I did not hear that, David. What was that question?
I'm saying, do you have towns in Massachusetts that you think would be particularly useful for us to talk?
Well, certainly, yes, in the sense that, and I think Jeff had brought this up. Keith, I don't know if you ever heard from Ian Kane in Quincy, but Ian was talking about forming, I don't want to call it a coalition technically, but it was kind of a group of towns and cities that are looking into municipal broadband and infrastructure like you are, and almost forming a, I'll call it a cooperative for lack of a better term, but don't use that as a legal term necessarily, but so that information could be shared. And not only that, but petitions to the state and to the funding agencies could be collectively, organized, right? As a larger organization. And I know he was putting that together. That was kind of pre the election, and he got really busy during the election cycle. Have you heard from him since then?
No, I remember Jeff talking about it, but I haven't heard anything since then.
Okay. So let me loop back with Jeff, because I know he's having conversations with Ian, and let's see where that is, because that's something that we're recommending all of our clients do, is get together in this group and at the very least share ideas and best practices and what you guys have researched, what they've researched, because I think you'll find there's a huge amount of information that they will share with you.
Okay.
Do you think that Fairhaven is a good model? They're close by and about our size.
Well, so I don't want to speak out of turn, okay? But there are new models kind of coming up, and I can share as much of that with you as you would like. But one of the models that we're seeing is kind of a new definition of public-private partnership. And essentially the vehicle, we've been talking to a number of very large private equity type companies. Okay. These are large pools of equity, and they are using what's called an SPV vehicle. David, you may know about these, given your finance background, but they're called special, let's see here.
Special purpose?
Yeah, special purpose vehicle. Thank you. And it's interesting because in the past, when you talk to a private company about a public-private partnership with a town or a city, their idea was, and this is large companies and small regional companies, their whole idea was, you give us money, we'll build infrastructure, and then you go away. And we will maintain that infrastructure, we will own that infrastructure, and we will decide how much that, what services run over that infrastructure, and we'll decide what to charge for those services. And a lot of cities and towns went that route. There's a new model where it truly is a partnership, where the private company brings the financing. Okay. The city brings financing to the extent they can get grants and other type of, financing from federal and state agencies. They combine the pool those interests. So, whether that be a 90% from the private equity and 10% from the town, or whatever that mix is. And then both the town as well as the private entity have governance responsibilities inside of that special purpose vehicle. It's a company, right? I mean, it's essentially a company that's set up. Those that we're working with, and so that's a way for the town to get the financing needed for the infrastructure without relying on the town necessarily.
We like that.
But what our model is, and what we've been working with these various companies really, really firmly on, is if the town wants, or whatever the public entity is, we want in this special vehicle or special purpose vehicle company, we want a path for them to acquire full ownership and control of the asset.
The town or the company?
The town. That's what's so unique about this, is the town maintains governance while it's being built and why it's being stabilized. But if the town decides, the town can then acquire 100% ownership of the asset for long-term ownership and management. Okay. And it's all predetermined up front. How that would look, what those triggers would be. And it's kind of like, it's almost like a first right of refusal kind of a positioning, right? Where you don't have to, you can own it with the partnership long term, or you can essentially buy out your private partner and have the whole thing go public. That's a very, very unique thing in these SPVs that we're talking about. So it's just another option that I think is going to be a pretty powerful option for a lot of towns like yourself. Now, the reason I share that with you, and this goes back to David's question, some of these groups that we're talking about, they're looking for projects that are much larger than just Westport. Okay, so they would be interested in coming in and creating a special purpose vehicle that includes a Westport, a Fairhaven, a New Bedford, and a Dartmouth, for example. Okay, that would be so it would be a regional play, again, with the ability for each one of those organizations to carve off their own infrastructure if they wanted to. That's just an option, but that is definitely a direction that we're researching and investigating and having conversations around. Just want to share that with you. It may fit your model, it may not fit your model. But
I'd just like to comment on that. I don't like big private equity companies to come into a small town. We've got some very significant financial people in our town who live here and operate on a bigger stage. And I think we can craft something that will be much more suitable to.
Oh, we lost you, David.
Yeah.
Oh, your mic has gone out, bud. We can't hear you. He was on a roll there too.
I know.
Yeah, I think I understood what he was saying, and I don't disagree with him at all. Because these you could essentially accomplish the same thing with someone
David,
else.
we can't hear you. We can see you.
Can't hear you, bud.
We can't hear you, David.
Hmm.
No, we can't hear you.
So it's just another funding option. I mean, whether it's you get like some type of bond, whether you get this particular SPV or some other equity group that provides some funding for it. It's just another option.
It's another option.
I think this is where the complaint that I hear is people are like, follow the money. Where's the money coming from? I think if you have like private equity coming in, that just kind of, it might not be a bad idea, but it might.
Yeah, and I use that term. I don't think the companies that we're talking to are private equity firms. I use that term generally for just to say a company with a lot of money. Let's put it that way.
David, we can see you're trying to talk. Can you try to talk, David? No, we can't hear you.
No, not working.
No.
We
want to talk to you, David. You have interesting things to say.
So
No, we can't hear you. Poor guy.
yeah,
He's gonna call.
I'm gonna call him with his phone. Okay, good idea.
So I just have to make sure that we don't get feedback.
Yeah, at the moment he calls in, his microphone will start working.
Yeah. I have my hand on the mute button.
Yeah.
Okay, just a second.
There we go. We can hear you.
Oh, well, I have no idea why. Anyway, I think this needs a lot of study, but I'm very leery of some of these high-powered operators, and I was trying to say we have some local financial people in Westport who are very knowledgeable and very capable, and I want to see what Fairhaven does, because they have the same sort of capacity. And I'm kind of leery of getting into big groups with other entities, but following a good model of something that really looks like it's going to work. So I don't think we should discuss this anymore now. I think we need to collect information and communicate outside.
Yeah, not a problem. We will just share the information as we pull it together. from a model perspective, not a particular company or group. And then you guys can, utilize that however you think best. I think that's great.
Okay.
So what else might we need to talk to you about the organization and operation of the MLP?
I'm sorry, what's that, Shauna?
So the discussion topic was the decisions to be made by this committee and by the select board relating to organization and operations. So what are the kinds of things we should be talking about for organization and operations?
Well, one of the things is what I started to mention before, where do you have a committee overseeing it or like a individual manager or something? So, do we look at a committee running it or an individual?
How are other, I think you need a board, right? Would the municipal light plant have a board? Like how do
They
other
had a board,
communities do that?
Yeah. Most of them do have a board, and then they have a designated like manager, right? That reports to the board for decisions, that kind of thing.
So David, are you intending to present something? I think he did. I didn't think he attended.
David, we can't hear you, and you're trying to present something right now.
I'm taking it back over.
Oh, yeah. Oh, his mic is
David,
on.
we can't hear you. Even when we have you twice now.
It looks like his phone is muted, though. If he unmutes his phone, I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, David, I think you have the wrong one muted.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Now
There we
your
go. We hear you. We hear you.
Now your mic's back, yeah.
This is very frustrating.
You can't tell what you're doing to turn it off and on?
Well, I'm trying to work on my phone right now. I'm trying to work on my phone.
Yeah.
Meet, give access. Yes, okay. Allow Meet to record audio. Yes.
I don't know why it's asking you that.
Yeah.
Any,
Oh,
Go
now
ahead.
it's-
Now you got both of them going.
okay. Well, all right.
Now we can hear you through your phone. Yeah.
I'll be quiet for now.
Well, I'll mute one of them. All right. I probably did the wrong one, but I did mute one of his devices there.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, I can hear you now. So, okay. That's
Okay, good.
all right. So I guess, do we want a committee? I would think that there's a point where it gets to where you're hiring someone to run it, right? With maybe oversight of a committee. Is that how it normally works? Or do you have like an elected board? Like, I think Devin, you started talking about that earlier.
Yeah, so it really depends upon how you want to manage the day-to-day operational maintenance of the physical infrastructure, right? Now, the recommendations I think that we made in the plan, and we're making to most of our clients, is you particularly already have in, as part of what you're doing for the town's network, you already have a really great resource in the Comtrax, camp, right? Brian and his team. Now they're not the only ones, but they're definitely an option for coming in, not only, providing all of the construction expertise and the actually building the physical network, but then they have the capability of maintaining that long term, as long as you would want them to maintain that, from a management of infrastructure. And so we think that is not a bad strategy at all to outsource that, at least for the first few years, right? Until the network stabilized. And again, if you organize it in a way to where the MLP or the town owns and controls, from a government's perspective, the infrastructure, then you can always choose to bring that in-house. You can always choose to outsource it to another party if that party doesn't work out, right? So there are all kinds of options that way. So I think unless you decide from day one to to build out a fiber department, I don't think there'll be a lot to do, meaning from a governance perspective, because you're going to outsource most of the day-to-day workload, if you will. And so really it's an oversight type of function at that point. And then down the road, if you decide to do that, then that's a whole different thing. And there would be more of a management role. But I think most of the towns that we're talking to that are going down the MLP route, like Fairhaven, like some of the others, there is no question that their focus is on a good governance board, and then they're going to outsource the day-to-day.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. We had talked about in the past about outsourcing the day-to-day operations. Just from the MLP portion, you need someone to provide the oversight, right, to whoever you're essentially contracting with. So whether that's a board or committee or an individual, you still need that government persons to provide that oversight over whoever's supporting. So I think my question was, who's providing that oversight? Is it a board or is it an individual?
I think I think it would be the select board, and then the select board could decide whether they want to do it or if they want to form a committee to do it. I think we don't have the manpower to do this anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
So we absolutely are going to have to outsource if it's going to happen at all. I'm not even sure we have the capacity to have like the town administrator take on the oversight. So I do think there would have to be some kind of board like this one, or a committee or something that would make then recommendations to the select board, unless the select board wanted to just delegate the responsibilities. But I think it would end up being a group like this advising the select board as they're signing the contracts and stuff. Unless, Devin, you've seen it work some other way.
No, so far those have been the conversations we've had with other towns that we're working with in Massachusetts.
Because we just don't have like a DPW or any kind of related function that could do that.
I think
Oh, David, you were talking and then now you're not. Did you touch something? Oh, wait, I can't.
Unmute him on the other one.
Unmute his phone.
I can't unmute his other device. Only he can unmute it.
Okay.
Okay.
how
Okay.
about, am I on? Okay.
Yes.
How about the four of us plus Paul Junko? I think we're a good board.
Yeah. I think maybe we recommend that we just keep this board and then see if we want to change the structure. But I think that makes the most sense, is to have this board advising the select board.
Okay, so that's good. So when I do speak with KP Law, I can start steering them in that direction, just so that way we make sure that everything looks okay.
Good.
That's great.
Renee, did you agree to join the board?
I'm here.
Well,
I mean, I'm in agreement with what you're saying in terms of the oversight. I think, we just don't want to give away the whole shoot and match. I think we have to maintain some control. And I agree, we're just not outfitted to handle this ourselves. So at a minimum, we want somebody that we can work with that will handle the day-to-day operations.
right.
Okay, so is there anything else we need to talk about on that? So the organization operation topic. Okay.
Okay.
Then the next item, David, that you had was plan to publicize and generate support for the municipal light plant proposal. Do we seek funding? Do we add members to the committee? Do you want to take us through what you're thinking there?
I'll try. Let me see if I can turn off my there so I don't hear it twice coming back at me. I just think we're going to need to really put on a serious campaign. And I was hoping that Paul Junkus was going to be here tonight because his company seems to provide funding for things related to internet and the kind of work that his company does. And but I think we need some money. We should set up websites. We need to make sure that our existing town website is really functioning. And we need to recruit more people. I've been talking to Sue Daler about possibly coming and joining us for 6 months. She worked on producing the original survey a year and a half ago, and seemed very good at that. And I think she's thinking about it. I also have talked to Jeff Canton, who is helping on our climate resiliency committee in terms of outreach. And I think he's very good, and I've talked to him about it. So I'm just asking the committee whether it's okay if I go out and recruit a couple more people to either join the committee or join a working group to focus on publicizing and outreach.
Right. I mean, I think that sounds like a great
End
idea.
of statement.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. We could use more hands, especially people who we've got
Uh-oh.
really good.
Now I can't hear you.
Well, I can hear you. He turned the volume down on the wrong thing. I mean, I think we need people, particularly in that kind of communication space, because I think with Renee and Paul and Keith, we've got good people who understand the infrastructure and, you know, the operations type thing, but maybe not so much the marketing messaging. So I think that sounds like a great idea.
I was going to say maybe we can pull in Valerie and John Resendez up at the high school and have them craft like a public service announcement or a little informational video that we can put on social media. I mean, I don't think the town has a Facebook account, but I think a lot of our communication, if we can possibly do some outreach via social media, that would be the way to get people. I don't know how many people go to the website on a day-to-day basis, but Keith, I don't know if you have numbers on that. But
I'm echoing.
I don't have those statistics. Sorry. No.
It's not very many. I could I was looking at the YouTube channel. There's only like 9 people subscribed to the YouTube channel watching the videos. It doesn't mean more people watching, but sometimes they do. There are several Facebook sites that tend to get some momentum around stuff. But yeah, you need a clip. You need a story or a brief thing that you're gonna say, and then you direct them for more information. So I think David was on the right track about. David, you're echoing. So there's something on your side that's causing it.
Is it my side?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know which one to drop off. I'm going to leave on the computer and stick with the phone.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes.
Yeah, we think so.
Am I still there?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. So I guess
Can you
related
hear
to
me?
this,
Yes, we can, David. Go ahead, Keith.
related to this, I mean, we did speak
Am
with
I coming on?
Yes, David.
Obviously not.
David, we can hear you.
Ah,
David.
This is so frustrating.
Oh no.
Doesn't look
He's
like.
probably turned his volume all the way down.
Yeah.
He's not in his normal setup. Okay, David, are you there? All right. So Renee, so I'm sorry. Okay, David, can you hear us? Can you hear us, David? No, he can't hear us.
Well, how about now?
I
Yes,
can hear you. Can you hear us?
we lost you.
Well, no.
I turned off my phone. So
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. So you go ahead and I'll try to limit my interference.
So David, we like the idea of recruiting people. So if you have some people that want to get involved, if they want to officially join the committee, they can just send a note to the select board. If you can recruit people to just kind of help us along, and that's also fine. Renee, did you have you were talking about social media and
So-
maybe getting a PSA.
Yeah, I was thinking if we could I realize not too many people watch the videos on YouTube and may not even watch them on cable, but if there's a way to distribute like a marketing video or an infomercial on this to them, I don't know if the town has email addresses of residents and whether or not that's something that we can even explore.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
we have
actually
like
sending them a link of promotional stuff.
yeah, I think it will like we can have the that John Resendiz will have, like I did a PSA, it was too little too late, but I did a little blurb on community television about question 5 before the last election. So it was like a 2 or 3 minute thing. I went to the studio, a student filmed it and stuff. And then it got shared on social media, but it was really late in the day. And I don't think it got very widespread notice, but we do need something like that. You need a little 2 to 5 minute clip. You need to be talking about it in all the related committees. You need to be sharing it on social media and make sure it gets in the paper. I think that there'll be a lot of attention from the local press on all the town meeting topics. I don't think we'll have a problem getting it in the press, but I don't care how much it's in the newspaper, it's on social media, and people still say they don't know.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone who is in the fire department. In the fire department, like, well, how do I not know about this? It's like, I don't know. You're a public employee. You should be reading the paper and listening to stuff. Like, of all people, you should know. But,
Right.
but I think we still need the messaging, right? So we still need somebody who's really good at the content that you're going to share. Like, what are the 3 things we need to know? And it's kind of like what they put together. Maybe we just need to lift that, Devin, the stuff that you did for the last town meeting, like lift those key points out and just keep repeating them.
Well, so you're certainly welcome to use any and all of the content that we've provided and we have to provide. And we're certainly happy to help you with that. One of the things, if you go back to the broadband plan and specifically the next steps section, which is only like a page and a half, 2 pages, we talk in there that there's kind of the next step. I mean, once the town decides, yes, we want to pursue this to the next step. Well, the next step is really organizing your RFP process or RFQ or RFI, whatever one, your flavor you prefer. But there are really 3 organizations you want to narrow in on from a next steps perspective. The first is you want to select, again, assuming you decide, yes, we want to go down this path, at least to the next level, and then maybe not a commitment, but yes, we want to explore it more. And if you decide, yes, we want to do open access, which I think the committee has definitely made that recommendation to the select board, then you need to choose what we call your open access partner. Okay. Because who you choose to partnership with from an open access technology management perspective will drive the other 2, meaning their input's very critical to the second RFP, which would be for the what we call the low level engineering and network design. So they take kind of what you've already done and then they make that a constructible network, right? So you got high level feasibility design, and then you take it to the next level, which is low level design. Then once you have that, and that's what a number of towns are doing and cities are doing right now in Massachusetts. And then once you have that, then you can go to the construction folks, right? And do an RFP for construction. based upon those designs and based upon that, the overall strategy, the open access platform, those kind of things. So that's kind of your next step as far as engagement from a how do we move this thing forward? Now that's separate from what David's talking about, which is community engagement, which those should be absolutely simultaneously done. Absolutely. We think that's absolutely the way to go. But obviously, what messaging you put out to the community will depend a lot on, again, who that open access partner is. Okay. So for example, if, Entry Point would respond to that RFP for sure. Okay. And so would 2 or 3 other companies likely respond to that RFP. Depending on who you choose, they're going to have materials, marketing materials, community engagement materials, I guess, ways to communicate, and those kind of resources to help you in that regard. So again, that's probably your next step as far as moving this, ball down the road, is going through that process, that RFP process. Now, again, to help you do that, I know we've talked about this in the past, and I think, David, you were doing this, or maybe Keith was, or maybe a combination, but I'm assuming you guys are already in the process of applying for the MBI Digital Equity Planning Grant.
I haven't started that yet. That was something I was about to bring up, if that's something that we wanted to do, because it would help with the community engagement here. So
that's exactly why I bring it up, is because those are funds specifically focused on educating the community and around everything broadband related and connectivity related. And so that could definitely provide some funding for these kind of community engagement efforts that we're talking about here.
So I have a question then. So going back to your 3 things. So I think everybody wants open access. I haven't heard a single person say, no, we don't want open access. So I think we do want that. But are you saying that then we need an RFP for, like, I guess I'm a little confused about the order of events here, because if we're going to go to a Maytown meeting and we need to start the community engagement before the Maytown meeting, what is it that we need? That you talked about, the choosing an open access partner and RFP for the low level design, and then the RFP for construction. So I'm just a little confused about, like, what's the next like RFP we should be putting out for this open access partner?
So
Or
okay, so
design?
I am making the assumption that, and this is an assumption that you have to tell me whether I'm accurate for Westport. Because I know there are different rules for towns versus cities versus, other municipal entities in Massachusetts. But most of the clients we're working with, their procurement departments are very clear on, we need to go through an RFP process to select a partner to do virtually anything. Now we have had some that have said, no, we know exactly what we're doing, and we know there's only one company that can provide that, and we're going to sole source it. I don't know if there are provisions in your governance to allow you to do that. But if there are not, then it's a traditional RFI, RFP process, right? So there's going to be 3 of them, because there's 3 core functionalities of putting this whole thing together from a deployment perspective, not from a community engagement, but from a, how do you get this stuff in the ground and how do you get homes connected and businesses connected? The first is you got to identify your open access partner, who's going to bring the expertise, the technology stack, all of those things that allow for the open access platform. The second to that then, and you do them in this order for one very, very important reason, and that is depending upon the open access platform and methodology you decide to go with to facilitate the open access, it will have variability, or it will inform and dictate certain things as it relates to network design. and engineering. Okay. And then your networking, engineering, and design will again inform the construction, because it'll tell them exactly how you want to construct it, exactly where you want to construct it, and where you want connectivity, right? So that's kind of the order that you do those three things.
Okay, so the first RFP we need is for the open access partner, right? So what's the second one we need?
It would be what we call low-level network design and engineering. That's taking your current network design and organizing it in a way that it's almost a blueprint, if you will. So building a house.
Right. No, I got it. And then, so we choose the open access partner that's going to help with the technology stack of what we want. That informs the low level networking design. And then what's the third one?
Yeah, they're going to help with that. And then the other one is construction, right?
All right. So then from a timing perspective though,
Yes.
do we need to go down this RFI, RFP for the open access partner like now? Or is that something we would do after we have the municipal light plan?
You know, the timing is up to you. It's not critical you do it now. Although, if you do it, if you have made that decision prior to town meeting, then you can actually bring a lot of detailed information to town meeting to inform that decision.
And what
don't
works
have
in our
to.
favor here is that we have access to ARPA money, that so we don't have to go to town meeting for an appropriation necessarily. So we might be able to, because a lot of times you have to go to town meeting or you can't pay for the contract, right? But we could probably use ARPA money for this. So I guess it's so if we need to put out an RFP, go ahead, David. I can't hear you though.
Yeah. Mike's
Poor
not
David.
there.
He hasn't figured out the trick of his mic. We can't hear you, David. Nope. Nope. Poor guy. No, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. So so Keith, have you thought about doing that already, or had you planned to do that? The RFP, the next RFP he's talking about?
Not for the open access partner. I've looked at information on doing the low level network design. So I've gotten some preliminary information related to that. But I can understand, I can't understand the open access partner, the need for that.
Devin, can you get us like a sample RFI or something, or somebody else's RFI?
Absolutely.
Or RFP or whatever it is we need. Can you get us a sample of one so that we have something to start with here?
Yes, I can. In fact, the city of Chico, California put out a really good one. And we can provide that to you. There are others that are on their way. We don't have them yet, but I can certainly provide a sample of Chico's that was, it was pretty detailed and pretty it was right on as far as what they were asking for. So
David's expressing some concern about going to town meeting before we go out for the open access partner. But then we have a more solidly, yes, where this is the approach and we can start running with it. So that's the advantage of going to town meeting first. But it sounds like the advantage of going ahead and getting an RFI out and getting that ball rolling is that you might have a partner then that can help you with some of this outreach and messaging.
very much so. In fact, that would be part of the core responsibility of that partner.
So,
David.
Super frustrating, David. I know. Sorry.
Yeah. So like Sean, you said, me to start working on the grant, but I could certainly use help on, that grant. And I wanted to talk about some other grants out there too. So any assistance that I can get associated with that would certainly be beneficial.
So I don't know, David or Renee, can either one, I know I don't have the capacity to help with that. So do either of you have the capacity to maybe help Keith with those grants and the RFI?
David's glad to do. He just sent a message in the IM.
Okay, so David will help. Okay.
And Keith, we're happy to also, we've been doing a lot of research in this area, obviously, because we have so many clients, particularly in Massachusetts. And so I know Jeff has a lot of information about it. We've talked to Josh Eichen many, many times. So we're happy to help with that as well. If you have specific questions or want some guidance on what we think is kind of best practices, we're happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
So I think from the whether we seek funding from a publicity campaign, I think people can kind of try to do some outreach to try to figure that out. The town can't do that, but we might be able to get some private companies. So it's not like David's got some leads there. And then
Yes.
certainly we want to add members, or if people want to come and be a member, or if they want to just not make a commitment to be a member, we could really use some expertise. So I think that's fine. Anything else on this whole
Yeah, one thing I would say, Keith, on this particular, the digital equity planning thing, the application process is super straightforward. It's not like you got to write a big paper and submit a big, application. It's an online form. It's super, super easy. So I'd recommend you do that one for sure, because any fund you're able to get there will just help this committee get the word out.
Okay.
Good.
oh, there, we heard David.
Oh, you never know.
It's like magic. Anything while we can hear you? Oh, too late. We lost it.
In fact,
That is so bizarre.
Keith, I'll put in the chat if I can find the little chat window here. Where's the chat? Oh, there it is. You probably already have this, but this is the website, the web page they set up, and it's
Yeah.
literally a one-page little application. You fill out a form online. So
Okay.
really easy. So anyway, but if you're going through it and you have any questions, by all means, reach out to us.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So then the next item on the agenda was how are we doing? How's the current project going?
So the current fiber is all installed and completed and tested. Everything tested sat. I'm waiting for the final reports and the warranty that comes with it. So they submitted that. So I'm waiting for all that to come in. Once I receive all that information, I'm actually in the process of working with another vendor to help move all of our equipment off of the existing network infrastructure onto the new fiber. So I'm projecting that to be in the mid-late January, at which time we'll be off our current infrastructure and all onto the new fiber there. So we're making good progress there.
David, you want to try to talk? No.
All right, and David's probably going to ask about the fiber loops. So I am still working with the vendor. Well, I'm working with creating the appropriate contracting, so that way I can get the two north end fiber loops done. So I am hopeful to be able to submit that probably after the holidays and get that going. What I'm told is probably like a 3-month lag to get the fiber in before they'll actually start doing the construction. So, in the spring, they'll be doing the two north end loops.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I did try for a grant for to do I don't know if it was, I think it was the East Loop, but I got notice that I did not get that, so that was unfortunate. But as I see them, I'll keep plugging along. And I had mentioned there are some other grants that are out there. Some of them are just that grants. Others are, you are loans, and then there are some others that are, you pay half, they pay half kind of thing. So the problem is that you have to kind of pick one of those. The grant money is the hardest one. I think it would be hard, while we would be eligible, I think it would be hard for us to get it, because it's really rural areas that are applying for it. So it might be difficult for us to get those. So if we applied for that one, you wouldn't necessarily be eligible for some of the others. So those are some of the things that we need to think about and talk about at some point. If we do move forward, those type of grants, how do we want to proceed? Because certainly getting a 50-50 kind of grant would be beneficial.
Yeah, so make sure you're reaching out to David as to help you out, and Devin. Go ahead, Devin.
One thing I was going to say, so as the BEAD money, the large pool of money coming from the federal government, as more and more of the rules around that have been published, and the new FCC maps, which still are willfully inaccurate in our opinion, have come out. It's a couple of things have kind of emerged. First of all, most of the BEAD money is going to go to very, very rural areas of the country that have very poor connectivity, and Westport would not qualify, okay, according to the FCC maps. But there are certain carve-outs under BEAD that we're really researching right now, and we're working with one of the authors of the BEAD rules set, and that is around multifamily premises. So, apartment, and where they are carving those out as being as a subset of what's available and what you can apply for under the BEAD funding. So we're doing a lot of research on this, because we specifically asked, well, what defines a multi-dwelling unit, right? An MDU. What is the definition? Because a lot of times they're just large apartment complexes that you would find in downtown Chicago or downtown Boston, right? But they intentionally did not define it. So they're saying duplexes and quads and fourplexes and triplexes also fall under this, and then anything above that, anything bigger than that, also fall in there. So there may be a carve out under BEAD that we can get a little bit of money to supplement the overall construction costs of the network. But we're researching that, and that may be one, Keith, that we can share more information with you in the near future. So
when I looked at those maps, there was two things. One, the FCC map that came out for the broadband, they show our entire town as potentially getting a gig service, which is not even close to being accurate. So they allow you to, on an individual site, individual property, say that's not true. But I don't know how, if at all, we can say as a collective town that, that's not true.
Agreed.
And the other thing, when I looked at the rural map, it showed everything, most of Westport as was considered rural, except for the north end corridor, where Route 6 is. So there is a little bit of precedent, not precedence, but I mean, there's, a little bit of hope that we're considered, rural in the eyes of the federal government there.
Yeah, you could be considered rural, but it's unlikely you'll be considered underserved, because Spectrum has done a very, very good job
Of saying that we have a gig when we don't.
convincing the FCC that you guys are all taken care of.
Yeah.
But this carve out has nothing to do with that. It has to do with strictly what they call MDUs, and whether you're served or underserved or all of those qualifications, or rural or urban, is irrelevant when it comes to this particular carve out. And that's what we're researching, to find out what is the process of applying just under that little carve out. And we'll let you know once we find that information, because there are, not a lot, but if you've got 10 apartment buildings or 10 duplexes or something around, I don't know, I'm making that number up. But when you do have a duplex, a quad, a fourplex, a small apartment complex, theoretically, those are eligible. And we can carve out an application for those. So we'll see. More to come on that one.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Keith, for all that you're doing there. Thanks for David for stepping up and Devin for helping out. So David wanted to talk about having a clerk for the group. I know I've been trying to take the meeting notes. I don't mind taking meeting notes while I'm in the meetings, but it's been very difficult for me to do the planning and the scheduling of this stuff. But so David had volunteered to clerk, to be the clerk. So how about if, I don't know if we need to officially vote on it. I'm happy to take meeting minutes like the ones I did tonight. This is how I normally do meetings all my regular day. But if maybe David, if you can help with the coordinating, like you have been gently nudging me to do, I think that would be good. I do think we need to make sure that we're getting our minutes approved and posted and that kind of thing. And David mentioned again about meeting at the police station. So Keith, when the police station is all up and running on the internet, we want to have a meeting down there.
Okay. Well, like I said, I mean, we don't have the network infrastructure in. There's nothing plugged into it, so there's not a whole lot to see other than a fiber patch panel right now. But when we have everything running, we can certainly look at doing that.
All right. So then I was looking at we had been meeting like every other week, which I'm not sure that we need to meet every other week. Maybe we need to meet once a month, and then if something comes up or we know we're going to have something in 2 weeks, maybe we look at that. If we waited 4 weeks for this meeting, it would be on January 12th. But I know at least 2 of us are serving on a committee that meets at 5 p.m. on the 12th of January. So if we met on the 12th of January, I think we'd need to shift this meeting to 7, or we could meet on the 19th of January and maybe at 6 or 6:30. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm okay either way.
Yeah, the 19th sounds good to me. I think David said the same.
Okay, so let's do the 19th at 6 o'clock. We'll continue to do remote until we can go to the police station.
Yeah.
And so maybe the February meeting at the police station. Are there anything else that we should talk about while we're here?
I guess to kind of circle back to, we talked about the town meeting, and needing to be able to, I think, present something at the town meeting. I mean, someone needs to be able to stand up there and kind of give the overview of everything. And we're going to need to, have some sort of presentation, slides, speaker, all of that. So I don't know if that's something that we should be looking at putting together now. I don't know if that's something that we can have our open access partner help, or, how we want to approach that. But it's just, I think we need to bring something more than, a flyer or something to the meeting there.
Well, I think that's what David was talking about, needing some community outreach and needing to get some people in who are skilled with that. So I really think we should be looking for who should we recruit to help do that. We can do a presentation. Even if if you didn't have any other messaging, you could at least pare down the select board presentation, right? So you could pare that down to the key highlights. But if we can get somebody with some kind of campaign type experience to kind of help us with like key bullet messaging, then you want to incorporate that. But I mean, if I think it's all part of that leading up to town meeting is going to be even more important than the presentation at town meeting.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, we would need to talk about it, and we I think we could decide closer to who makes sense to do that, the talking about it, whether that's you, Keith, or somebody else.
Okay. All right.
David, are you talking? No,
He's trying.
okay. He's trying to talk.
Mm.
All right. All right. Anything else? Okay, so I think I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the 19th.
Have a
Take
nice
care.
holiday.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
one.
Merry Christmas. Happy
Good luck.
holidays.
Happy holidays.